as far as Trump, everything that was Trump messed up before leaving Europe. He thought he had this under a secret. It wasn't under a secret as much as the cameras all over the European country are present within problem cities. We know these cities are a problem. We know that there's a large number of events that happen over there. Now, the United States back in 1980 to 1990 wanted to point fingers and said you have murder and killing. Yeah, we got murder and killing at a 0.5%. It's going to happen when people get pissed and other people steal money and kick people out on the street. It's going to happen. Whether they get assaulted, whether they get beat up, whether they become a hostage, whether they go to murder. Now, if you go to murder and killing, then you overstep that line. If you ask someone for a place to live and they don't want to give you a place to live, then they overstep that line. If you went to the government and worked every avenue of the government like I have to get back to where you need to belong, then they have overstepped that line. And when you overstep that line, you're overstepping that line in an act of war. Since this country's already in a war, and don't think by sitting there and talking to yourself every day in a home that you do not own, you can't afford, because your pay rate was already set. You signed the paper. Now, from the pay raise that is considered legitimate and that position that you took on to, that is more than feasible in the sense of, okay, are you being paid enough? Yeah, if you listen to what the law says and how the rules and regulations are, you will find out it's more than feasible. Most people need to make $20,000 and $30,000 when the food's only costing $1 to $1.50 to $1.80. When you have a family, that goes up. When you start lying, the biggest lie in America is the fact not tossing kids around, but saying this kid lives with me 6 months out of the year so they can claim it. But you got to read that law. You got to have that kid for 9 months out of the year before you can actually file a claim and anything else. There is no income tax at this point. And the reason there ain't no income tax is because you get the decrease in the percentage of what tax you need to pay. As far as screwing up on the job, well, guess what? That's coming out of everyone's salary who's involved and who knew. I mean, it's just one of the things. You either do your job or you don't do your job correctly. You don't speed up during the job. As far as apprenticeship, it went out of the United States. It shouldn't have even been here this long. As far as the food and aid money for foreign aid, that went into salaries and that went into pay raises of the government to pretty much just sit there and lie, cheat, steal, and murder. As far as relying on YouTube for a sense of how many people are being murdered, what's an act of war, and what's going on, I wouldn't go that route, because these private wars do not publicize. Oh, 5 to 8 people got killed today. No, you don't. They don't do that in North Dakota. They don't do that in Montana, and they definitely don't do that towards the west of the country, because they know if they publicize, it's going to be questioned, and it might get investigated overseas. Which is not hard to figure out an investigation if you keep talking about what had happened, what this was. But that's when I'll send people in to question you. And it doesn't necessarily need to be an agent. I'll set up questions. Did you do this? Did you do that? Put you on TV, blah, blah, blah. You either forced to answer the question or you get in trouble. Sooner or later, you're going to break, and that's when all hell's going to break loose on you, whether or not you did it or didn't do it. It's not hard. There's people in emergency services who will upload pictures and documents that they probably shouldn't upload, but because they're being asked to prove that this crime was I fall and tripped and hurt myself and broke my neck. Okay, there's one thing in that line of sentencing that doesn't make sense. I fall, I tripped, I hurt myself, I broke my neck. Well, if you fell and you ended up dead, okay, well, now we got a problem. How did you fall, trip, and break your neck if you're sitting there reporting the issue? That's the problem. You have people assuming SSI numbers. You want to know how your neighbor next door can drive around on a brand new vehicle. That's why he's holding 8 SSI numbers that of people that are dead, because he's in a certain group, he's in a certain faction, and they look and say, oh, he's collecting 8 SSI numbers, until they text you question. I'm threatened and thrown in prison. I'm not going to say nothing, but as soon as I'm found out, your ass is done. That's how that works. That's why you'll see the FBI and CIA, especially the CIA. CIA hasn't been there since roughly 1980 somewhere. They like to say 1983, because the CIA and FBI, as far as Europe, walked out. The ones that actually knew what they were doing. The ones that had 25 years of experience, simply learning how to, in an educational facility. We don't call them colleges over there. The moment you call it a college, it's more like calling yourself being in a coffin. Terminology and words are so loose in this country that it's better to speak off the sense of how they understand than speak on how they understand. And the example is always the same. I walk my dog down the street. Dog walked down the street with me. Or not with me, but me. Common me. So what that guy doing the second side of the thing, he walked the dog down the street. As far as whether or not I'm really pissed, I could get in a building and not give a shit, because right now, everyone, if you ever look at the faces in Congress and the Senate and the representatives, they're getting loaded up. That's what government tends to do. When you don't do the right thing, it loads you up. If you get pissed about it, who cares? Because you did an act and a crime that you should have never done. Now let's prove the fact of war. The proving part of the fact of war is, one, if you look at the 1980s to 1970s, and even into the 1960s media on YouTube, which was put out in Europe under a request, since I didn't have to actually order this, in the sense of telling them that this needs to go out there. At one point in time in 1980, they wanted to pull some of it back because they're getting problems in their country, such as the bombings in the subway and people getting threatened in outlying areas. That's where they were told to not stretch the military thin, but send in a military envoy into these cities on an almost daily basis. If you are what they like to call a perp, and you get caught, you will get a heavy criminal accusation against you. We don't say charge against a person. We don't say that a person is convicted of a crime, in the sense of only the air can sit back and overrule any accusations. Everything a cop in a court does is an accusation. It's not set as a conviction. When I say it's convicted, that means I've done what I needed to do, whether from a distance or being actually in that position of asking people question on question on question and whatnot, and even catching you if I think that you're just fibbing. You're telling me what I want to hear. Did it really happen? If it really happened, that's all I want to hear. I'm not interested in breaking down a person to lie about something. I'm not interested in flat out lies the other way. So if you did it, be honest about it, and you'll be told, if, like in this country, you'll be told to live a certain way, and not to try to overrule that. As far as the need of proof, as long as it comes out of your mouth, I don't need to prove it. But at the same time, in death, you will need to prove it. And when I say death, that means that you will be, technically, as they say, it's not the great judgment, but it's somewhere like it. When I say like it, it's somewhere in and around the fact that that you won't be in front of a bunch of people. I'll just put it that way. You'll be in front of a single person. And normally it takes a while to handle some of these. Most of the time it's as quick as a simple minute, which is 10 minutes, to handle these problems. Now, the act of war often started because you wouldn't have patrol borders in the sense of customs, and you would in the sense of immigration, but you wouldn't have it so heavily as it is today. The military is up the road from every checkpoint inside Canada, let alone Europe. As far as trawler ships and patrol ships are constantly patrolling Europe on the waters, let alone in military fashion. As far as what was going on with what is often referred to as open house party, it's like I told John Garabedian, don't ask questions, don't ask why, but just realize that by the time this is done, there's going to be a change, or there's going to be a lot of people in prison that will make something happen that's better for people. And that's all he ever needed to know. As far as John Garabedian, I believe he was holding something for me that he needs to return. Anyway, that's pretty much the proof, other than if you want to see it in your face. Like I said, go back even back to 1950, you'll see it. Don't listen. You can listen to the documentaries, but it's a waste of time. Just look at the pictures and the videos, and you'll see what has happened, what hasn't happened. As of 1870 to present, up to 1980s, the cameras have been off for the people, in the sense of every now and then government just shutting cameras down. If everything's going good, even in a problem city, then they'll shut the cameras down for 5 to 8 hours to alleviate certain servers, as well as some people claim that it gives them a headache. So they end up doing this. As far as whether or not the U.S. is compliant, like I said, you're better off at the guillotine, standing in line, because that's all the help that some of them are going to get. It's just go hang yourself, because you already did it back in 1980, you already did it in 1990, and I don't need any principle BS from any religious or occult factions that think that, oh, it says this right here, and it says the Ten Commandments. It says 10 Commandments. 10 Commandments aren't law. It's 10 things someone commanded someone to do, or a bunch of people to do. It's not law. I mean, some of it, like, do not murder. Yeah, that's a good one. Just try to start living by it when you send military over to kill people. Anyway, that's all I gotta say.